heated. Assumptions: heat loss from the teapot is negligible. Constant properties can
Negligible.
negligible. Yes, sir. Constant properties can be used for both the teapot and the water.
Yes. So how do you attempt? How will you attempt?
Okay, sir. Sir, give me sir 2 minutes.
Yes. Please go ahead. So everybody, I wish everybody do with a pen and paper. We'll try and solve. So essentially you have 1.2 kg of liquid water and you are putting it on a heater where it is heated up from 15 degrees centigrade to 95. So your two components. One is the pot and the water that is inside. And you have a heater which has a power of 1200 watt. Electric heater. So watt means, what is the relationship between watt and joule?
Energy per unit time.
What is unit of which property?
So power.
Joules per second, that is power.
Power. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between power and energy?
Power is energy per unit time.
Rate of energy.
Yes. So why do I need these two variables? I mean, energy is sufficient, right? Why do I need suddenly power?
Because we have to calculate time.
No, I mean, physically, why do you need two different variables? Have you ever thought about it? Like, let me put it in a very different way. What is the difference between energy and power? Anybody has?
Sir, you asked that why do we need power? Initially, you had asked. So, like, I thought that is it possible that energy every time we cannot give continuous amount of energy? So at like we calculate the average amount of energy over a given period of time. That is somewhat more accurate rather than measuring keep on measuring like energy for this amount, this much time, and this much energy has been used. Instead, if we know that this is the rate of energy, we can just multiply it with time and find it. So it makes
very true. That is correct. But I'm asking a more fundamental question to you. What is the difference between energy and power?
Okay.
All of you are studying these two parameters since maybe about 4 or 5 years almost. I'm asking a very fundamental question now. That what is the difference between energy and power?
The energy is the tendency of a body to do work, whereas power is the rate of energy spent by that body.
Energy is what? Tendency of something to do work. Say suppose something is not working, this bottle, which is just standing like this. So does it have any energy or not?
Yes, it is potential energy, no?
So then, but it is not planning to do any work. It is just in that state only. So I just wanted to stimulate this question in your head, because once you look at the answer, you will see that it's like you are opening a door. There is a difference between those who are knowledgeable and there is a difference between those who really do not have the key to open the door. Right, and this is where you have to be very, very careful when you study something. You have to be absolutely spot on in terms of your understanding. Right, like last class, we cleared a lot of doubts related to different forms of energy and how heat comes, how different qualities of energy come, and then what is internal energy, and then what is enthalpy, and then what is free energy, and then what is entropy. it requires a lot of clarity in terms of your understanding of the subject. Then only you may be able to contribute towards the frontiers of science and technology. So now, if you really want to understand the fundamentals of science and technology, one very important distinction that you have to make between energy and power. Okay, and the answer lies. Say, suppose I start with the units that you know. What is the SI unit of energy?
Joule.
What is joules?
Joule.
Very right. What is the SI unit of power?
Watt. Joule per second.
Watt.
Joule per second. Watt, right? Joule per second. It is the denominator second, right? So first, you notice that there is a second that is coming in the denominator. Now, why am I putting the second in the denominator? If you really fundamentally look at the parameter, say suppose I have given you 100 rupees, okay? I have given you 100 rupees and you have the 100 rupees in wallet, right? So you can always spend 100 rupees. But, say suppose I say that, I have given, say suppose 2 students 100 rupees, 100 rupees. And I tell that, the person who will be paying the vendor, who can quickly take out that 100 rupees from the wallet. How quickly you can take that 100 rupees out of the wallet, that will be the decision-making factor. Who is going to pay? So now you see, I am in a subtle manner, I am bringing in the time parameter. Both of you had 100 rupees, but I am bringing in a very subtle manner this time parameter to make the distinction between both of you, that who is going to pay. The person who can take out the 100 rupees faster is going to pay. Right? So energy is the total potential of the system. Total potential of the system. Whenever you calculate energy, what is the energy of the universe? You know there is a number associated with that. You can really add up everything and calculate that. Okay, this X is the amount of energy that is available to me. But if it is available to me, right, that doesn't mean that I can bring that energy into action. Right? Not only that, that doesn't mean that the entire thing can be brought into action, say by next second, by next 10 minutes. I tell you, okay, whatever energy is available in the universe, you just bring in and utilize it next 10 minutes. You will not be able to do that. Right? So energy is a measure of what you have available. What is the wealth? What is the bank balance that you have? Right? Now, power is how quickly you can get into action. Say suppose, if I look at the entire class, 90 students, you know that all of you know many things, correct? Most of you, if I really compare about the knowledge and all, say suppose you will find like, it is not much of difference in terms of knowing things. You know X amount of things. Some know a little bit higher, some know, other things a little bit higher. But if I make an average, you will see the knowledge level is more or less same. But in the examination hall, who is bringing those knowledge into action and cracking the problems, that is associated with the power. How exactly you really look around the entire spectrum of your knowledge, and from there you bring in the right aspect which is associated with the problem. Now that is what is called power. So if I really differentiate between energy and power, energy is what? Energy is a parameter which is more of a scientific parameter. It talks about the potential. Whereas power is more of an engineering parameter. It talks about how quickly you bring in the energy into action. Am I clear?
Yes.
Do you have any doubt? Any question related to this? How fast? Say suppose 10 bikes are in a signal. Which one gets off the block faster? That actually you will see will be decided by the power of the engine. all are having throttles, all are having gasolines, all are having engines which are which has like say suppose everybody has say suppose 20 liters of gasoline, but the one that gets off the block faster is having more power. That means in a smallest possible time, it can really convert that available energy into work. So somebody was telling that potential to do work. No, not only potential. In energy decides the potential to do work, but power decides how quickly you can achieve that. And time has a very important component, right? If I need electricity now, you may not allow me to bring in electricity 10 years down the line. You want me to get it right now. And that's where power is an engineering parameter and energy is a scientific parameter. Energy talks about what is the total budget you have, whereas power talks about how quickly you can bring into the action. And this problem is framed in that light that you have a teapot, you have tea, and you know that what is the energy associated with that, the internal energy is associated with that. So first I have to make the total budget of internal energy, and then I have a heater which is heating it up, and from there I have to obtain the time. Clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So could you proceed with the problem? How should I do the problem? This one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What is that? Can you narrate me? What did you do?
So first of all, we will find the heat required to, energy required to raise the temperature of the liquid water for 15 degree to 95 degree from MC delta T. And
what is the M here?
Sir, M will be 1.2 kg.
What is C here?
The 4.18.
Yes. What is delta T?
Sir, 80.
Very good. Then?
So then same for the teapot.
Yes.
So that is 0.5 into 0.7 into 80.
Right. Then?
So then we will get the total energy required, and then we have the
how much the total energy has come.
So it is so just a minute. So 429.28.
Very good. Then 429.28. What unit is what?
So its unit is kilojoule.
Right, because it is kg, kilojoule per kg, right? You are using that part. See, one very important factor of heat transfer, thermodynamics, fluid mechanics are units. Major, engineering results are you get a problem. So you be very consistent with your units. Okay. Yeah. Then.
So and then we will assume that it will take T time to it will take T time by the heater to supply that amount of energy. Then 1200 T will be equivalent to that the energy we got, and then we will divide by 1200. We will get a required answer.
Sorry, I got disconnected. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Anybody,
Yes, sir.
anybody got the number?
6 minutes.
Very good. 6 minutes, right? So I divide it by. So you just have to be careful, kilojoule and watt, right? That is the only problem there. Great. Problem 2. Let us move to problem 2. So what is problem 2? Somebody read for me.
So the 0.2 liter glass of water at 20 degrees centigrade is to be cooled with ice to 5 degrees centigrade. Determine how much ice needs to be added to the water in grams if the ice is at 0 degrees centigrade. Also determine how much water would be needed if the cooling is to be done with cold water at 0 degrees centigrade. The melting temperature and the heat of fusion of ice at atmospheric pressure 0 degree centigrade and 333.7 kilojoule per kilogram respectively, and the density of water is 1 kilogram per liter.
Yes. So what should be the strategy? You have 0.2 liter of a glass is having 0.2 liter, right? And then it is at 20 degree. So you are taking some ice, which is at, of course, you know ice, what is the temperature, and then putting the ice that is into, you have two different aspects. Either you can add cold water or you can add ice. Now, when you are adding the ice, you have to add in such a manner so that it will be, finally, it will be 5 degrees centigrade once you add the ice. So how much ice you need to add here? How do you do that?
Sir, 0.2 liter of water is there, so so we can calculate the mass of the water from the given density.
How much?
Then 1 kg per liter is given, so 0.2 kg of water is there.
What 0.2 kg water?
Then temperature difference is 15 degrees Celsius. 15, then 0.2 into 15 into 4.18. So that much amount of heat is needed to transform the water from 20 degrees Celsius to 5 degrees Celsius. Then we can assume that the amount of my ice is needed is
no. Here
we can say first ice will convert to water, and then temperature of ice will raise by 5 degrees Celsius. It's at 0 degrees Celsius. So we can say that M multiplied by 337.7 kilojoule per kg plus M multiplied by 5 into 4.18, and from this equation we can calculate mass.
How much is the mass coming?
Wait a minute, I'm calculating.
So everybody could understand that. You know what water is, when the water is going for, say, suppose what is the liquid water that you have started with. Now you have mixed the ice. Now this liquid water is what is, it is from 20 to 5. Whereas this ice is getting heated up from what? 0 to 5. Now, when ice is getting heated up from 0 to 5, first ice is going to melt. Then ice is going to be heated up from 0 to 5. Whereas in case of water, you know what it will do, it will be reducing from 20 to 0, correct? So now these two should be equal. Whatever ice is getting heated up, amount, say suppose if you have to put m amount of ice, how much is it is getting heated up? It is going to be, I mean, ice will become water, and then the water will cool, and then finally what will happen? Then this will become what? This will become 20 degree, I mean 5 degrees centigrade, and with 0.2 liter plus that ice amount, total amount of liquid. This is the balance equation. This is the energy balance equation that you have to enforce. Is there any doubt? Anybody has any doubt?
Sir,
Yes, yeah,
sir, I have a doubt in first question.
yeah.
Sir, in the first question, we are dealing with power, but we know that the heating rate of water and that kettle will not be same. So why not we talk about energy?
No, I mean, heater is coming from the bottom, right?
Yes.
You are heating from the bottom, right? And you have the energy 1200 watt is available with you to heat up the pot, as well as see whatever energy is coming from the heater. It is going to either water or the pot.
Yes.
And I assume that the water and the pot are both in equilibrium, correct? I mean, at steady state, whatever heat is coming out, that is heating both of them, and they are attaining the same temperature. This is an assumption that I am making.
Okay, sir.
Correct? When I heat up, initially it will be in unsteady state, right? But then as time will progress, at certain point of time, what will happen? It will become steady state. Whatever energy I'm supplying, that is heating the kettle and at the same time water.
Okay, sir.
That assumption is inherent inside, okay? Yeah. So somebody got the answer for the problem 2?
Sir, mass of ice will be 35.36 gram.
Right. Very
Yes.
good.
Sir, mass of
Yes.
water. Sir, I will just
Mass of water, again, in mass of water, only thing that you will not have is the latent heat, correct?
Yes, sir.
So
That
600.
will be excluded, right? So what will be the situation there? 600 gram, right?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Very good. Everybody got it? Anybody had any problem doing that?
Same
Please
answer.
discuss. Huh?
Yes, sir. The same answer. Right.
Same answer, right? Anybody got any problem? It's very, very important that you discuss about your problems. No problem. Okay. Problem 3. Somebody reads for me. Yes. Everybody should participate. Then it will be it will become very vibrant. You should not be shy. Should not. Feel shy to speak up. Okay, we are all learning, and that's the biggest fun if we all speak and then start participating. Yes, somebody else,
Sir, I will speak, sir.
please. Yeah.
A 2 kilowatt resistance heater wire whose thermal conductivity is K is equals to 15 watt per meter Kelvin has a diameter of D is equals to 4 mm and a length of L is equals to 0.5 meter and is used to boil water. If the outer surface temperature of the resistance wire is Ts is equals to 105 degrees Celsius, then determine the temperature at the center of the wire.
Right. So I just magnify the picture a little bit, right? Can you explain now what is the problem?
So just give me a minute.
So you have a saucepan, right?
Yes, sir.
And you have inside the saucepan, you have put some water and you want to heat up the water.
Yes.
And in order to do that, what you have done, you have put a metal wire inside. Just the way we heat up our, this hand heater, these handheld heaters are there now to make, garam pani in our house and all, right?
Yes, sir.
So question is that, say, suppose if you have a hot wire in the, say, this particular water is at, say, suppose room temperature in the beginning, right? And then you have heated this up. So now this wire is having a surface temperature of 105, and that is slowly conducting and convecting heat into the water. Now I have given the diameter of the thread, right? I have given the temperature outside, that is at the surface, but I have not given the temperature that is at the center line. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now this there is a heat that is going from the wire to the water, and the water is getting heated up, right?
Yes.
So once the mechanism is clear, now you say that a 2 kilowatt resistance heater. So I give you the power, right?
Yes, sir.
Whose thermal conductivity is this? Why thermal conductivity is given? Because the main mechanism of heat transfer, which we are going to study in the next class, is the conduction here.
Yes.
I'm heating it up, it is getting conducted, correct?
Yes, sir.
So now the diameter of this is 4 millimeter, the wire, and the length is, so just, these are given to talk about the volume so that I know what is the total energy and what is the energy per unit volume. Both should be known to us. So my objective is I have to boil the water, right?
Yes.
Now I know the outer surface temperature to be 105. So my target is what is the temperature at the center line of the. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So how do we approach this problem?
First, we will find the convection heat loss, total convection energy transfer by convection process.
No, whenever you do the work, first you do your energy budget. What is your energy budget here? This type of problems, you always go for energy budget, right? What is your energy budget here? Through the wire, what is the total energy available to you? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, through inside the wire, what is the total energy available for you? 2 kilowatt, no? That means 2000 joule, right? Watt means
Yes.
I can always say per second this much. Right?
Yes.
That's why it is said that this is written as Q dot. This dot at the top always means that this is Q is the energy, Q dot is the power, right? E is the energy, E dot is the power. This is the way it is written, right? If I take 1 second time, then how much energy I have available? 2000 watt, 2000
Yes,
joule,
sir.
right?
2000 kilowatt. Yes, sir.
Now,
2000.
So now your question will be, see, this is your total energy budget, right?
Yes, sir.
Then what is the most important parameter that you need to determine?
Time.
Is your you see it is written here. It is written that E generation, that means E dot generation, that means your energy concentration. Okay, that means your energy per unit volume. Right. So can you determine what is your energy per unit volume?
So energy per unit volume. Sir,
So we have to also take time, right? Like per unit volume and per unit time, because we don't know the.
When you write Q dot, time is embedded, right? You start with what? So basically you are looking for you are telling that this is energy concentration, but you are operating at a power concentration, correct?
Okay, so it's like evident, like with the dot only, we are just going.
Yes, anything that is there at the top dot, that means you are operating with what? You are operating with the parameter which has a time component associated with it. So performance parameter here is time.
Yes, sir.
So what is your E dot generation?
3.18 into 10 to the power 8.
Yes, 10 to the power 8. Then unit. What is the unit of that?
Watt per meter cube.
Meter cube.
Yes.
Meter cube.
So you have joule per meter cube is your energy concentration, and watt per meter cube is your power concentration. That means per unit volume, that much of power is there, right? Okay. Now, what you do, see, I just show you one thing, that this is your, say Q dot is what? G dot into V, right? This is what we have calculated, correct? Is it clear with everybody? Is it visible to all of you? Hello?
So
No,
it's not shared.
It's not visible, right?
Yes, sir, it's not visible.
It's a little smaller, correct? Let me just magnify a little bit.
no, sir. Your
So
screen
your
is
screen
not
is
visible.
not shared.
Oh,
Screen
sorry,
sharing
sorry.
has stopped.
Sorry. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right? So rate of heat transfer from solid is equal to rate of energy generation within the solid, right? So whatever energy you are generating, that is what you are transferring. In the wire that you had, say if I go back to you, in this wire, whatever heat I am generating per unit volume is the energy that I am transmitting to the water, that same amount of heat, and I can consider this to be same. Is it clear? So whatever energy generated, what is that? This is what we have just now calculated, that Q dot equal to E dot into V. Now here, what is the heat transfer mechanism that we are thinking? In some case, it can be convection, which is the case here. But in our case, what we are considering to be this to be conduction, right? So we are considering this to be conduction. So conduction means what? Ka into delta T by delta R into this. This we'll study from Fourier's law, right? But for the time being, I would suggest you to take where is that equation? Delta T by delta R. So this derivation will do at some point of time, that Ka dTr by dt equal to G dot Vr. This derivation will do sometime, right? But then ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that if your rate of energy generation within the solid is equal to rate of heat transfer from the solid, and this rate of heat transfer is equal to what? It is only happening because of conduction. Okay, so you will end up getting an expression which is equal to what? Which is equal to, this is all energy balance that you are performing. Delta T max cylinder is equal to T0 minus Ts equal to G dot, which is E dot here, R0 square by 4K. Right? So please make use of this equation in order to obtain your center line temperature. Can you do that? Is it visible to all of you now?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah. So this slides will be shared with you as you go for the solution. So essentially what you are doing, you are saying this is the conduction, Fourier conduction. Then this is the heat generation. They are equal. Whatever has been generated is conducted to water. And from there, if you are putting the area and volume of the cylinder, you are obtaining delta T max equal to T0 minus Ts into G R0 square. G means E dot R0 square by 4K, where K is the conductivity, R0 is the radius, T0 is the inside temperature, and Ts is the surface temperature, right? So from there, I can obtain what? I know other things, and I can obtain what? I can obtain the center line temperature, correct?
Yes, sir.
What is the center line temperature coming in?
Sir, approximately someone's 126.
Yes. Great. Fantastic. So I leave the derivation with you. I mean, that will be your assignment. As you are supposed to submit, all of you know that, these problems we are doing in the class, but you are supposed to submit as an assignment by next Thursday. Okay. And there is no, I will not listen to any excuses. I mean, if you get delayed, you should submit by weekend essentially. These are all very simple problems. Just finish it and submit it. And this derivation you find out and you make it a part of the assignment. Okay. Of course, later on you will come to know. I'll share the details. But then this will be something interesting, and you will make the preparation for the next class in that manner. So I will be teaching the Fourier heat of conduction, Fourier's law of heat of conduction. Yes, problem 4. Can somebody read for me?
1, 2, right?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Sir, the answer will be 126.2, right?
About, yeah.
The third one.
Yeah. Okay, problem 4. Somebody reads for me problem 4. Hello. Yes, open up, discuss. That will help you. Another 2 years time, you are going to face interviews. And if you are shy, you will see others will get jobs. So you have to take initiative in a company. When you go to a company, when you go to a profession, people will like you to take initiatives. I will take those persons in my company who takes initiative. Yes, who is that?
Sir, Neeru.
Neeru, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, can I? Yes.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
The resistance wire of 1200 watt hair dryer is 80 centimeter long and has a diameter of D equal to 0.3 centimeter. Determine the rate of heat generation in the wire per unit volume in watt per centimeter cube. The heat flux on the outer surface of the wire as a result of this heat generation. Consumption heat is generated uniformly in the resistance wire.
Yes. How will you go about that?
Yes, sir. Wait for 1 minute. Sir, firstly, power divided by volume. Then we get the heat generation in the wire per unit volume.
How do you, and then what is the answer that you get?
Sir.
So one trick here is played. You will find that we have written watt per centimeter cube, right? Always be careful about this. These are the places where engineering mistakes happen. Exams, there is not much of difference between the knowledge level, quality, but people, those who are not reading question papers correctly, they will have issues with. They will report the answer in watt per meter cube, and then they will come to office, keep telling that, sir, the calculation is correct, please give me marks. No, it is not about getting marks. It is about how much alert and how much relaxed you are in the examination hall. That decides your grade. Right? It is also a component of your power.
200.
200?
12.3.
Yes, great. And what is the flux? Quickly calculate.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think here temperature is not given.
Temperature is not necessary. For heat flux, why do you need temperature? Your energy per unit time is given. Instead of calculating volume, you calculate area. No? What is flux? Flux means energy per unit area, right?
Yes, sir, yes.
That is heat flux, correct?
So 7.95.
7.95.
So
Did I
15.
make? Yes, I have 15. Just see whether you have missed some. I mean, this pi
Some
dl maybe.
energy flux is 15.9155.
Yes.
Yes, so 15.9 only.
So there is some error in his calculation.
Sir, actually, I have taken diameter instead of radius. That's why I got the error.
Yes, be very careful. You know, here you can afford it. Examination hall, you cannot afford. And there is a difference between you are getting a good grade and an excellent grade. Right? So, and this all happens with the mental alertness. Excellent grade, excellent, job, excellent, if you want to go for higher studies, excellent colleges. You see, more you get associated with the people who are knowledgeable, your quality of life will be different. People will try to convince you there is nothing to do with the studies. But believe me, if you study, then only you are going to get into those companies. I mean, company in a sense in a job, and company in a sense, human companies who are exceptional in nature. Average attracts average. Exceptional attracts exceptional. So you have to make sure that
Sir,
you are
my
maintaining.
answer is 16.9.
16 or 15? 16 or 15? What is that?
16.9.
So you have made a mistake in division. See, you are an IIT BTech and you are making a mistake in division now. 1200 by 0.3 into 80, right? How much is that? Check your calculation, okay? Since many are saying 15.9, they did not know. I think it should be 15.9. Great.
Yes,
Problem 5. Somebody should read for me. Last one, quickly. Yes, who is speaking in problem 5? Life is all about initiatives, okay?
Yes, sir. Can I read it, sir?
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the question, problem 5 is consider a 2 meter high and 0.7 meter wide bronze plate whose thickness is 0.1 meter, and one side of the plate is maintained at a constant temperature of 600 Kelvin, while the other side is maintained at 400 Kelvin, as shown in this figure. The thermal conductivity of the bronze plate can be assumed to vary linearly in the range as K of T varies from K naught times 1 plus beta T, where K naught equals to 38 watt meter Kelvin and beta equals to 9.21 into 10 power minus 4 Kelvin inverse. So disregarding the edge effects and assuming steady one-dimensional heat transfer, determine the rate of heat conduction through the plate. And
yes.
You have to, as there are certain assumptions. First is heat transfer is given to be steady and one-dimensional. Thermal conductivity should vary linearly, and there is no heat generation.
Yes. So how do you attempt the problem?
Just a minute, sir. For that, so since this variation is linear, we can take out the K average instead of like taking it as a function. We can
So what is K average? Can you calculate K average?
Yes, sir. Just a second. K average equals to K times 1 plus beta T2 plus 38 into 1 plus 500. So approximately 55.5.
Very good. Others are getting 55.5. Anybody else got 55.5?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Now the next step. So what will be what is the question here? In this situation, this regarding the AJ effect, assuming steady state one-dimensional heat transfer, determine the rate of heat conduction, right?
Yes, sir. Rate of heat conduction will be, I think, K average times
area into delta T by L, okay?
Yeah, the formula, yeah. That one.
Yeah. So K average into A into delta T by L. So how much is that? What is your K average?
K average is 55.5.
Yes. What is your area?
Area is 2 into, just a second, 2 into 10.
No.
2 into 0.7, I think. 2 into 0.7.
See, area will be, right. You have to be very careful about the area here. Right? And then you have dt by dx, correct? So what is dt by dx? What is the temperature gradient here?
You can take it as delta T by
A dt by dx, right? So what is dt?
dt will be 200.
200.
Right. dt will be how much?
200, sir. Since
one
like
side 600, one side 400, right? So the temperature difference is 200. Correct?
Yes, sir.
What will be dx?
Dx will be 0.1 meter, sir, because thickness is 0.1.
So what is the temperature gradient you have?
Just a second. 55.5 into 1.
What is the temperature gradient? Temperature gradient. I'm asking temperature gradient.
Temperature gradient is so 5,000. So
unit.
Sorry, I'm sorry, sir. I think it should be 2,000 Kelvin per meter.
Unit.
Kelvin per meter.
Sign.
Sign is positive. I mean, sign, sir.
See, in the direction of the heat flow.
Yes, sir.
See, in which direction the heat is flowing?
From high temperature to low temperature, 600 to 400.
Okay. Now, from 600 to 400, the temperature is, you know the heat transfer direction that is given at the center of the figure, the arrow, Q dot. Now, you tell me the temperature gradient. What will be the sign of the temperature gradient?
Negative.
Yes. So final is small, initial is high.
Yes.
Right? So, like in fluid mechanics, it's a negative pressure gradient that makes the fluid to flow. In case of heat conduction, it is the negative temperature gradient that makes the energy to flow. Okay, the negative sign, the origin of the negative sign. See, finally, it has to be of lower temperature. Otherwise, the heat will not flow from high to low temperature.
Yes.
Right? So in the direction of the flow, your temperature gradient will always be negative. This is number one wisdom. Number two is that the unit is Kelvin per meter, right?
Yes, sir, Kelvin per meter.
This is also called field intensity. Like say, suppose in electric field, what is the unit of electric field? Volt per meter, right? Volt is the potential divided by meter, right? That is called the electric field intensity. Like it decides in which direction the electrons are going to flow, right?
Right, sir.
Same here. This Kelvin per meter is your thermal field intensity, and this decides in which direction it is going to flow. So
it's kind of a analog to that electric flow, we can say, like it is analog.
Yes, and 100 years back, this is where 120 years back, this is where scientists put together the general theory of relativity, where every framework comes together and then you define energy. Right? So gravitational force, electric field force, other forces like friction force, every force has a correlation with energy. So suppose if you have an energy basket, gradient of energy decides which direction it is going to flow, right? Now, once you define the gradient of energy decides what is force. I mean, what is the unit of energy, by the way?
Joules, sir.
Joule, right? Now, joule per meter is what?
Oh, basically energy per unit length, kind of.
That is energy gradient, right? Gradient of energy, right? What is joule? Joule is force into displacement, right?
Right.
If you divide by energy, so if you take an energy, suppose you have E, right? Suppose you have E. Let me do it on a PowerPoint. That will be even more clear for you. This is very, very important, you know, and it is so easy. See, more fundamental you go, things are like lucid. It's less complicated and it's easy for any intelligent person to understand. Say, suppose I'm talking about energy, right? What is the energy unit of energy? It is joule, right?
Right, sir.
When I'm talking about the gradient of energy, right? I'm just putting this delta symbol. You just think about this is dE by dx. I'm putting this in terms of three-dimensional, right? So then J becomes what? What is my unit? J by meter. This is my unit.
Yes.
This means equal to what? J is equal to what? Force into displacement, right? Correct? So this becomes what? This becomes. So when you have energy, right? Gradient of energy originates the definition of force. And for any engineering process, what you need? You need gradient of force to happen. There should be a difference in force, right? Say, suppose you are pushing me with one force, I am pushing you with another force. Now, the force balance will decide any dynamics to take place. Is it clear? Any dynamical process is a consequence of a force gradient. Like you can think about, say, pressure gradient. This is one aspect of it. Okay, is it clear to all of you?
Like acceleration is not constant, some kind of force.
Yes, whenever there is a force balance, see, when the force is equal, it is first law of Newton's first law. That if there is no force, if there is no, it will remain static, or if there is a force balance, then it will be in a uniform velocity. But whenever there is an imbalance of force, from there, you know, the acceleration will come, and that is the starting point of the dynamical processes. Now, in terms of engineering, I just keep doing this. E dot means my power, J dot means my wattage, delta E dot is my, again, gradient of power, J dot means what? Again, this becomes what? The force per unit time, right? And delta F is like, you know, this is where, like, you know, you see that. So now you bring in time towards that, then what you get? You get the power aspect. These are the engineering aspects of the variables.
Right, sir. Oh.
You get the point? So force is not uncorrelated to energy. This is one very big mistake people make. Force originates due to energy. And energy gradient is responsible for the force that is available. Now, multiple forces, they decide what is the total gradient of force in a dynamical process, leading to the consequence, like a car is running, like a aeroplane is moving. Okay. So when you look at a situation like this, you should always be interpreting first the direction at which it is going. Where is the energy gradient? Where is the energy gradient? What is the temperature gradient? What is the correlation with the energy gradient? How the energy is flowing, and related dynamics of the process. Great. So I hope that gave you some insight. So please, follow up with all the questions. Do you have any question in whatever we discussed in the last 5-10 minutes? Any question? Anybody has any question? It's good to ask questions.
Final thing was basically like if the temperature gradient has to be negative if we want a heat flow, like from higher temperature to lower temperature is what we always want, right? That's why it has to be negative. Like
yes. You see, it's about high potential to low potential, right?
Low potential. Right.
If you have a pipe, the inlet should have a high pressure and outlet should have a low pressure. So final is low, initial is high. Correct. So P2 minus P1 is always negative. Otherwise, you don't make a flow. So Newton's law of viscosity also has a negative sign associated with that. So yes, these processes are in common called the diffusive processes, right? So any diffusion process has a, it will always go towards lower energy domain, from higher energy to lower energy domain. Energy gradient decides the dynamics.
Right. Sure. Yes, sir.
So these are all conceptual parts. If these things are clear, if you are convinced, everything else will be absolutely lucid and simple. This is all bottom up. But if these things are not, you are not debating in mind, you are not at all thinking, there will be hodgepodge in your entire life. And that hodgepodge not only create a hodgepodge in your head, it will create hodgepodge in many heads, because all of you are going to be in a leadership role. If you are not clear, whomsoever will be interacting with you will not be clear about what you are talking. So it's very important to have clarity here. Okay. Yeah. Any other question? Great. So if you don't have questions, so 5 questions you are going to submit as an assignment by Thursday, and Monday we meet at 12 noon to start the conduction, convection, radiation. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, I had a doubt regarding the previous lecture.
Yes.
When we were studying about the phase rule, so the degree of freedom is equal to number of components minus number of phases plus 2, right? So yes. You had given an example of oil and water, like oil is on top of water. So the number of components here is 2, oil and water, and phase will be 1, right? Because both are liquid.
See, you have to really look at, let me just go to the slide. You have to really look, you can interpret this in many different ways. In some way, your interpretation is correct. Let me tell you why. So this is the slide you're talking about, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. So C minus P, and you have a oil water, right? And you have an oil water system, right? Now, yes. What is your system? Is it oil? Is it water? Or is it oil water interface?
Oil water interface.
You have to really be careful about what is your system. I'm asking the question, what is your system? So now if you take the oil water interface as the system, so how many phases are there?
2.
2 phases.
Oil and water.
And components, how many components are there?
2.
2 components are there. So 2 minus 2 plus 2, right?
Yes.
So you have 2 degrees of freedom. Yes. Now, if I go to in this oil water system, I just go to oil. I don't go to the interface.
Yes.
So then in oil, how many phases are there?
1.
1, right? How many components are there?
1.
1. And then you have 2. 1 minus 1 plus 2. Then what? Then again you have 2, right?
Yes.
So this is the way it has to be calculated out.
Okay, so the point.
Now, say suppose I consider, say you take oil and water and you mix it.
Yes.
We are talking about now layers, right?
Yes.
Now you mix it, so it will be an emulsion.
Yes.
Now in that, how many components are there?
2 because
How many phases are there?
1.
Why? Because it's an emulsion, no?
Yes, it's an emulsion. So,
So how many phases are there? 2. Oil and water is there, no? Emulsion means what? You have a water matrix, and in that oil droplets are there, right?
Yeah.
So 2 phases.
Yeah. So 2 minus 2 plus 2 again.
So that is 2 again 2, right? So one has to really see the system in clarity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Great. So see you on Monday. Bye bye.
Thank you.